Presented by Samsung, this is Our House as we welcome back Amy Walsh and Oliver Platt. We're almost 30 minutes into this program, and we've certainly said his name and sort of discussed him on a surface level, Amy Walsh, but I've yet to ask either of you about the fact Alphonso Davies played yesterday to varying levels of success. He was certainly involved. Now, we were waiting for this moment. We finally got it. We see some of his stats from his quarter of an hour yesterday. The question I want to ask, though, is how does his availability change things moving forward? Does Jesse Marsch try to use him more? Have we learned that maybe he's only got 15, 20 minutes in him? I'm curious what you think of the status of Canada's captain.
I don't know if he has much more than 15 minutes to give, but I think we finally saw him. I think that's a good thing. And we saw a game breaker. He's a game changer. It remains that, even if he's at 60%, 75%. We didn't see him put it into fifth gear. You know, he looked very tentative. He looked a little bit hesitant, but it didn't matter because there was a shift in the game. There was a switch that was flipped for the team where all of a sudden the confidence rose, was brimming for the Canadians, knowing that their captain was on that left side. It switched Schaffelberg over to the right, which I'm not sure was misguided or the right play, but it was Schaffelberg on his less favored foot that led to Stefan Eustachio's goal. But I think Alphonso Davies created a field tilt. It was a magnet towards him for South Africans who felt obligated to double team him, triple team him at times. And it's no coincidence that the goal came from the right-hand side, where all of a sudden you had a little bit more space open up. So the grand decoy, we finally saw him. I don't know if he has much more than 15 or 20 minutes to offer Jesse Marsch for this round of 16 match, but you have a little bit more time, a little bit more rest. And Arash used a word in your interview with him where he said fully healthy. We are not a team, or Canada is not a team right now that is fully healthy. We have players who are nearing full fitness. To me, Alphonso Davies looks like a player who is still very far from full fitness. But if he has a couple of minutes, if he has 10 or 15, maybe 20, next match to lend to this team, he will undoubtedly provide a lift. But I think if you're the Dutch, if you're Morocco, you've seen through the smokescreen now. You know Alphonso Davies is not the left back that wreaks havoc with his pace on opponents in Germany. So I think that they will not be duped by that, and it won't have the same effect versus the next opponent.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he has much more to give than we saw in that game. And the other thing about the South Africa game in particular was there was a distinct possibility of 30 more minutes, right? So how early can you actually bring him on with that possibility without having to potentially bring him back off again, which I don't think is something they want to do. The other question I'd ask going into the next game, regardless of who the opponent is where do you play him? Because Denzel Dumfries plays right back for the Netherlands and Achraf Hakimi plays right back for Morocco. And can Alphonso Davies track those guys right now? I'm not sure. And if not, that's a problem. So I think you maybe need to think as well about where you're going to put him and how you're maybe going to shield him from some of those defensive assignments that are going to require the flat out sprinting that I'm just not sure if he has the confidence to get there right now, based on, some of the setbacks he's had in the past. So it'd be interesting to see. But I agree that he certainly was able to have an impact, given that he still looked somewhat physically limited.
That's a really interesting point, Ollie. And I think when people were talking about how he was going to be utilized, he's not displacing Richie Larea because he can't offer more than 20 minutes. And also, I think there's a little bit more predictable nature, or it's more predictable when you're sprinting and you're running forward and you're attacking than it is when you have to be more reactive and responsive defending. So you make a very good point projecting forward and looking at the opponents and the strengths in the wingbacks or in the flank players that they do have. So maybe you protect them, you shield them a little bit, and then it might be a good time to invert them, to just move them away for some players who are going to pose problems for him whenever he's inserted into that match.